It costs over $100 to fill up this tank here in California. Here in California, the price of a gallon of gas is more than $5.
In California, you will pay $5 a gallon on average, while in Texas, that's $3.43.
It's a ripoff, absolutely. I have two homes in Bullhead City, Arizona, and there gas is always at least $1 to $1.50 a gallon cheaper. How can that be if it's not the taxes in the state of California?
California has the most expensive gas in the country. Well, usually. And this is no accident. See, for every gallon of gas you buy, the federal government and state government needs their cut. That's called your gas tax, and that's built into the price.
But in order for the government to be able to build roads and bridges, well, it needs money, and it gets money every time you pump your gas.
California generated $7.4 billion from gas purchases in the past year.
It's crazy living in California. It's kind of ridiculous. Obviously, the wages here are more, but they're not like that much more. We're paying, what, double the gas prices?
And now things are going to change.
But why is California getting rid of gas cars?
See, California is becoming the first state to ban the sale of gas cars. This will start in 2035. Now remember, you could still drive a gas car after that, but you just won't be able to buy one. So if this happens, gas stations would eventually just not exist. And California is already ahead. 1% of cars in the US are electric. But of the cars that were registered in California last year, almost 20% of them are electric. But where will the state get gas revenue from to build your roads and bridges? And what does this all mean for your car and the way you drive? California is banning the sale of new gas-powered cars by 2035. It's a major victory for climate activists who have been pushing this for years. But some people are skeptical.
Didn't they already put the legislation in? So I do believe it, but if it actually happens or not, guaranteed, I guess we'll just have to see.
There are a few reasons why California is doing this. See, first, gas-powered cars are a major source of air pollution. They emit harmful pollutants that contribute to respiratory problems, heart disease, and cancer. Number two, gas-powered cars contribute to climate change. See, when gas is burned, it releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which traps heat and warms the planet.
Environmentally, it's a lot better than gasoline, especially with how now we have global warming, so a lot of the process could be fixed with just having electrical cars.
The plan is to gradually phase out the sale of gas-powered cars over the next 13 years. And by 2026, all new cars sold in California will have to be zero-emission vehicles, like electric cars or plug-in hybrids. And 9 years later, no new gas-powered cars will be allowed to be sold in the state.
I'll probably buy a Ford Lightning pickup truck because I've been buying Ford pickups for 20 years. So consequently, yes, I'll probably buy a Ford electric.
This is a big change, but one that California is prepared to make, and by most accounts will be good for the environment. But there are some challenges that California has to overcome to make this transition. The first is the cost of electric cars. See, electric cars are still more expensive than gas-powered ones. The average price of an electric car in the US is $61,488, compared with $49,507 for a gas car. Another challenge California faces is the availability of charging stations. There are more than 10,000 gas stations in the US. While California is working to expand its network of charging stations, there are still some areas where charging stations are scarce. And then there's other types of backlash too.
There's going to be a lot of pushback. There's all these people arguing that electric cars are not all that great. They're not really saving the planet.
Hold up, what?
Yeah, apparently the batteries aren't decomposing. They don't recycle well.
See, some argue that the production of electric cars can be harmful to the environment and that the electricity used to charge them can often come from fossil fuels.
I don't think we're there yet, even with electric cars, because you're still using fossil fuels at the end of the day.
Is there any truth to these arguments? Well, yes and no. It is true that the production of electric cars can have some environmental impacts. For example, batteries used in electric cars, well, they contain rare earth metals, which can be mined in a way that is harmful to the environment. But the environmental impact of electric cars is still much lower than the environmental impact of gasoline-powered cars. Electric cars produce zero emissions, which means that they don't contribute to air pollution or climate change. The electricity used to charge electric cars can come from fossil fuels, but it doesn't have to. I mean, if you live in an area with a lot of renewable energy like solar or wind power, then you can charge your electric car with clean energy. So are electric cars really all that great? Well, yes, they are. They're better for the environment, they're more efficient, and they're even quieter than gasoline-powered cars. If you're looking for a car that is good for the environment and good for your wallet, then an electric car is a good option. And here are some of the pros and cons. The pros are zero emissions, more efficient than gasoline-powered cars, quieter than gas-powered cars, and fewer moving parts, so they're less likely to break down. The cons are this: the production of EVs can have some environmental impacts. The electricity used to charge electric cars, well, they can come from fossil fuels. Electric cars have a shorter range than gasoline-powered cars, which causes range anxiety, and electric cars are more expensive, as I mentioned.
It's kind of like weirdly controversial. You have a lot of people who say just like long term it's going to be worse for the environment, but I still think they're pretty sick. If I had enough money, I would definitely drive an EV.
While EV cars are more expensive than gas cars, the US offers a federal EV tax credit, and it's available to US residents who purchase or lease eligible new EVs. The credit is worth up to $7,500, and it's gradually phased out as more electric vehicles are sold. Tesla vehicles are eligible for the federal EV tax credit. You must meet certain requirements to qualify, and that means you have to be a US resident and have an income below a certain threshold. You can claim the federal EV tax credit when you file for your federal income tax. But in California, you can save thousands of dollars more because of what's called the California Clean Vehicle Rebate Project. This offers rebates for the purchase or lease of new EVs. It's easy to see why people are switching to EVs faster here in this state. See, California has the highest gas tax in the country. It's almost 10 cents higher than the national average. And it's so high because California has a lot of roads to maintain. The state has a long coastline, a lot of mountainous terrain, which means that it needs to invest heavily in road infrastructure. Also, California is committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and the gas tax ironically helps fund the state's transportation infrastructure, which also includes projects that promote cleaner transportation options like public transit and EVs. And California has a strong environmental movement. Many Californians believe that the gas tax is a way to hold polluters accountable and to invest in a cleaner future.
But what would happen to the tax revenue if we stopped buying gas?
In the future, it might be possible that EV owners in California are taxed based on the miles that they drive. See, the California state legislature is currently considering a bill that would create a mileage-based user fee. This would replace the state's gas tax, which is currently the primary source of funding for transportation infrastructure. This is a controversial proposal, though. See, some people argue that it is fair and equitable, but others say it's unfair to electric vehicle owners who are already paying for their electricity even though they're not paying for gas. The bill is still in its early stages, though, so it's not clear whether it will be passed into law. So how would it work? Well, EV owners would be able to track their mileage using a device that would be installed in their car. This device would transmit the mileage data to the state, and the state would then bill you, the driver, based on the number of miles driven. And it would be calculated on a per mile basis. The rate would be set by the state legislature. This is a way to fund transportation infrastructure that's fair to all drivers, regardless of whether you're driving a gas car or an EV. But this would also increase the cost of driving for EV owners, and remember, that could discourage people from buying them, which is the plan to begin with. If this is actually passed, it's likely that this would be implemented gradually, so electric vehicle owners will have some time to adjust to the new system. At the end of the day, most people will make decisions not based on the climate, but based on their wallet, and whatever is most financially beneficial is what the mass majority of people will do. So will California really ban gas cars for good in just a decade?
I do think that it's a better option, especially when we're dealing with all these gas prices and everything. If you're somebody who's like traveling a lot, then maybe gas is the way to go. But if you're somebody who's like in the city, then electric might be the best option for you.
And what does the future of energy look like here in the US?
I put solar on my house, and it has saved me tremendous amounts of money. My electric bill before was anywhere from $400 to $500 a month, and now I get a bill for $18, $20, sometimes really expensive at $45 or $50.